Welcome to Introduction to Stocks. I'm Victoria and I'm going to show you how to make a beef, chicken and vegetable stock. So let's get started. So we're going to start with our beef bones. I've got these from my local butcher and they are sort of cut into relatively small pieces, sort of. What's really great is to have a little bit of meat on there. It's brilliant for flavour. The extra ingredient here is the pig's foot. This is fantastic. It has tons of collagen in, which will really give our stock body as it cooks slowly in the water later on, and the collagen gradually releases. We're going to pop these into a high oven, around about 200 degrees for about 30 minutes, just until they've started to get a little bit of a colour, at which point we'll add our vegetables and roast it for another 30 minutes or so. Now we're going to prepare our vegetables for our stock. Now, beef and chicken stocks both have a long cooking time, so it's really not essential to cut the vegetables too small. I'm just going to quarter my onions and halve my carrots because there's just plenty of time for them to cook down. You also don't really need to peel your vegetables. Personal preference, I do, but again, it's not perfect science here. Once you've done your mirepoix, then for a beef stock you'll also add tomatoes. And I just add these straight into the stock pot as opposed to into the roasting with the bones. Okay, so the bones have browned really nicely. So now I'm just going to add our vegetables to them. So we just add the veg. Okay, and then back into the oven for another half an hour. There we go. Okay, so our vegetables and bones have been together now for about half an hour, so you can see they've got really nice colour. I'm now just going to add a couple of spoonfuls of tomato paste. I'll just sort of coat the veg, not being too precise about this. Just want to coat the veg and the bones in the tomato paste so that we can just cook it off a little bit for just 5 or so minutes. Right, so now for herbs for your stock. The very traditional way to do what's called a bokigani is like this. So basically you have your thyme, your bay leaves, you can use parsley stalks, sage if you fancy. I'm just going really traditional here though. And then you wrap it with the green end of your leek. So just cut 2 pieces, sort of around about that size, and then get a nice amount of thyme and just 1 bay leaf. Wrap it together so it's all enclosed, and then with a piece of kitchen string, wrap it around the end a few times and then take it down to the bottom and do the same. And then you just need to tie it together. Now that our bones and veg have all roasted, with our tomato paste as well, we're just going to transfer all of the bones, transfer everything into this stock pot. Foot in. And then the next stage is to deglaze the pan, because there are some really delicious sugars stuck to this roasting tray, and we want to make sure that we get all of the flavour. Okay, so once you've got your pan on the heat, just add a good glug, I like a generous glug, of brandy. If you don't have any brandy, you can use water and it works perfectly well. And then it's pretty hot, but just get those sugars up from the bottom because they really are full of flavour. And also by having it just on the heat, you're slightly cooking out the alcohol. We'll tip that into our bones, okay, and then we're ready to cover with water. As you can see, the stock has come up to a boiling point now, but also you'll notice that there's a sort of orange scum that's risen to the surface. So just using a ladle and having a jug of water on the side, I'm going to really carefully just remove these impurities that have risen from the bones and also the vegetables. You might only need to do this once, but you might find that it needs a couple of goes. I'm also at this point going to turn the pan down to a slightly lower heat so that the stock is just gently simmering now for around about 6 hours. If you're wondering what simmering actually looks like, you can see we've just got tiny, very gentle bubbles on the surface, and that's perfect. The beef stock has been simmering now for around 6 hours and we're ready to strain it. So I'm going to remove the bones into this pan here, and then I find a big stock pot like this is just too heavy to lift, so I will use a ladle, and then I'm going to ladle it through my chinois, which is this conical sieve lined with a muslin cloth, and into a clean saucepan. As an alternative, if you don't have either a conical sieve or a muslin, a normal household sieve or J-cloth works just as well. Now I've only got a sort of a couple of centimetres left of liquid at the bottom, so I'm actually just going to pop the ladle down and pour the rest in. It's highly likely the muslin will fall in, it normally does, but don't be too fazed by that. Okay. Now, the whole time I've just let my stock fall naturally through the muslin and the chinois. Don't push it or press it through. We want to keep it as naturally clear as possible, so just have a little bit of patience. The beef stock is strained into our clean saucepan and now it's ready to be reduced. Reduction is so important. This is where you really intensify the flavour and naturally thicken your stock. I'm gradually bringing it up to a gentle boil, and then I'll take it back down to simmering point. As you can see, there's a layer of scum rising to the surface again, and if I keep it on a boil and try and reduce rapidly, that will recirculate those impurities through our stock, which we don't want to do. The chicken and the beef stock have both been reduced now. We've reduced the chicken stock down by about 50%, which really has intensified the flavour and it's got it to a lovely consistency. With our beef stock, we've reduced it now right down to 10%, otherwise known as a glass. And when I say 10%, again, it's not an exact science, but just it's all done by eye. Now, to make a real space saver for freezing your stocks, we've got two tricks here. One is ice cube trays and another freezer bags. So ice cube trays work really well for the beef stock for the glass. You can see now it's got that sort of, it's much thicker in consistency and it's almost silky, which is perfect. And then when you defrost it, you can bring it back with water if you need to dilute it a little bit, or just throw it into a stew or something to add tons of flavour. And then with your chicken stock, and that's it.